Hey guys, I'm coming out from OG Neptunians. I'm here. I'm just wanted to talk to you guys about something I was thinking about. Maybe they'll give you food for thought. But the difference between Pisces and Scorpio and drug abuse. I know it sounds crazy, but it's a thing. Okay. Oftentimes we have in astrology, oftentimes we have a lot of those paragraphs that you find online that talk about drug abuse, and they associate water signs with drug and alcohol abuse and misuse. But the practical application to these things is not given, right? It's so they just say, oh, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol. When they talk about Pisces, always with escapism, and Scorpio is drugs, hardcore drugs. But needless to say, this is my thoughts on them. So, Pisces rules drugs because it rules your own, the Neptune. Neptune is in the 12th house. And it rules your own undoing, right? Self-undoing. And when you think about it, with people who abuse or use drugs, nobody is born and is like, I want to be an alcoholic or I want to be a drug addict when I grow up. Nobody, like, I mean, unless I don't know. I mean, I can't make that hasty generalization for everybody. But generally, I guess you could say, for the most part, people aren't born to say, I want to be an alcoholic or a drug addict when I grow up, right? So when people get into drug habits and alcohol habits, it is very slow and insidious, right? That personal undoing is insidious, and that is what the 12th house represents. Okay, your own undoing, and you don't even realize you're slipping, right? You don't even realize you're developing a drug habit until you're in it. It's very odd. You could start off with using, whether it be popping pills, whether it be, shooting up or whatever, or alcohol. You could you could start off with, going out for drinks with friends, and it feels good to hang out with friends, and your recreational time has a lot of alcohol included in it, and it's kind of normalized. And there's nothing wrong with the alcohol. The alcohol is not the culprit that causes problems. It's the person's internal network, or something happens. So, for example, the person enjoys going out with their friends for drinks or whatever, and they have fun. But let's say something traumatic happens in their life, and their friend is like, hey girl, let's go out and get some drinks. I know the guy, whoever cheated on you, and we'll get some drinks, we'll go to the bar or whatever. But that person has some pain surrounding their sense of self, right? Because maybe their boyfriend, husband, girlfriend, partner cheated on them, right? And so it feels good to get away from that space, because Pisces in the 12th house also rule escapism. So it gives you a space to rid yourself of those feelings, because when you're at home alone, you're dwelling on whether he or she or they are going to call back, or ruminating on what I did or what they did, or how could they, all these emotions, right? Because Neptune is an emotional house. And if you don't deal with your emotions, then you fall prey oftentimes. And sometimes we're not aware of our own internal compass, right? So, like I said, in the Neptunian world, in the Neptunian aspect of this, you go out with drinks with your friend, and then it feels good, and it just gives you like a space to like clear your head or whatever. Or it feels good to, hang out with someone and have some drinks, right? And then you find yourself having more drinks. Maybe you're going through the hard breakup. Maybe they call you, and you're still trying to end that breakup, or still trying to break that bond with the person. you know, it'd be like, oh man, I had a really rough day at work, and you know, I just need something to get my mind off of everything that's going on. Like, I can't deal with life, like this breakup, like I just can't deal with it. So you said, let me go into wine and spirits and just grab this bottle, like, you know what I mean? And then, you know, it might be just a glass of wine, you know, doing your work, or a glass of wine when you come home or whatever. But gradually it'd be like, oh, a glass of wine. Then you'd be like, oh man, I had a really hard day or whatever. Then you go 2 glasses of wine. Then it's like you're drinking a whole bottle, you know, and that's where, I don't know if I described it right, but you can see the insidious, the intent is not there. And this is why Pisces represents denial. And so when we see in drug and alcohol abuse, like that Pisces or that Neptunian energy is denial that they have a problem, denial that something is wrong, because you're lying to yourself, because the intent isn't there. Often, you know, it could be intent sometimes that, like, I'm just gonna get shit-faced and I just don't care about myself. That also does happen. But the denial is absolutely a Pisces thing, where you're like, oh, well, it's only a glass. Oh, well, that was last week. Like, I can have like 2 glasses. I haven't drunk in a week. But like, it slips gradually. And then you're not even keeping count. You're not even realizing that you're not dealing with your emotions surrounding the pain of the breakup or job loss or whatever the hell is going on. And so this is why it's your own self undoing, because you're undoing yourself. You're not even aware. You're not even aware of what is going on. Okay. And you're possibly lying to yourself and saying, oh, it's not that bad, which is also a Neptunian Pisces thing. So that's why Pisces rules alcohol and drug abuse. For one, the denial that, you know, happens when it's insidious in your own self undoing. You don't even realize you're doing it. You don't even realize. And when you know, that's another topic. That's another planet. But anyway, for one, the illusion and disillusion, right? The illusion of the alcohol making things better, but it's really not. It's just dulling your emotions, you know, or the drugs, whatever, the weed, whatever is going on, as far as the addiction thing. And it also represents the feeling like, you know, Pisces also is the feeling, the euphoric feeling. Because like Pisces is like Venus in HD, man. Venus is about our comforts, about what feels good. It's about, you know, things are nice and pleasant. And at the time, it feels great when you're tipsy, or, you know, when you're doing drugs at the time. And so you're chasing that feeling and that desire. We'll talk about that in the next, when I talk about Scorpio, because Scorpio really represents desire. But, you know, that feeling of like, wow, you know, that feels good. And so that perpetuates the escapism of Pisces. I feel like Pisces or Neptune aspects, or Neptune in astrology, and why it's associated with that is also, for those of you who live in the Philadelphia area, if you don't live in Philadelphia area, if you ever seen that show Intervention, or there's a lot of these tent communities and stuff in other places, right? There's other places where they have a high housing unstable community, and, you know, some of the people who are housing unstable use drugs. Not all of them, but, you know, there's a high number of people who do. But in that same way, Pisces can represent losing aspects of yourself. So you're so immersed in the addiction that you lose yourself. You lose your value. You lose aspects of who you are, right? And that is a Pisces, or that is a Neptunian thing. You lost your house. You lost, you know what I mean? And you don't even realize. And so then what comes down to is that, like, you know, it could be codependent relationships, which is also a Pisces thing. That's always also a Pisces thing. You ever seen, I don't know, the HBO The Corner, where you had the 2 crackheads or heroin addicts, and they're together because they try and score some drugs. you know? So you put your resources together and score some drugs together. But there's different rules in dope fiend world, man. So, needless to say, it could be you and this partner are so in love, being intoxicated together, but you don't even realize what your life has become. You don't realize you be on Kensington Beach Ave, strung the hell out, and y'all living in a box, but y'all still love each other. That is Pisces or Neptunian. That are Pisces or not even just Pisces, but Neptunian aspects of drug abuse. Where you're not aware of these things, right? You just slip into it. You turn around, you're like, how the fuck did I get out here? Like I said, because not a lot of people, I'm sure, choose to be, have a substance abuse problem. Now, as far as Scorpio is a different aspect of the cycle of drug use and misuse. So Scorpio represents, now some people argue that Scorpio represents hard drugs. Maybe it does represent hard drugs, like cocaine and stuff like that. And, the other drugs like marijuana or, some people argue marijuana is not a drug. To me, they're all drugs because drugs are used to treat things. And you can misuse drugs just like you can misuse high blood pressure medication. You can misuse cough medicine. It's a drug to treat something, whether it be self-medicating or whether it be medicating for actual clinical diagnosis. There's that. But needless to say, Scorpio's presence in drug abuse represents power struggles. You feel powerless in certain aspect, and that is where we get into the point where, man, fuck it, like you're so Neptuned out that Pluto or Scorpio comes in, and now you feel powerless over your life. So now you're like, fuck it, I'm not worth anything anyway. I lost everything. It don't matter. I just need to take another drink. That's when you're hitting like even lower, right? So you'll sink to even lower, or you'll go to even lower because you don't have it. Your sense of self-worth slowly, like it withers away, right? Another thing surrounding Scorpio and Scorpio's role in drug abuse, like I said, besides the power struggles also present themselves as somebody whoring themselves out, hooking, to get some drugs. I'm going to give something to you. I'm going to give something to myself so I can get something for you, right? It also could represent the vulnerabilities, right? Certain aspects of that codependent relationship. So the concept of the codependent relationship is definitely a Pisces thing, right? But also the Scorpio thing represents our vulnerability, stuff we want to hide that we don't want anybody else to see, right? But if we're with somebody who's also doing drugs or who also has a problem, they show you, that you can see their wounds and they can see your wounds, right? I think it's a little different than from a Neptunian standpoint, because Neptunian standpoint, you're seeing it on a basis of compassion. So the codependent relationship and the Neptunian relationship could be two people who have substance abuse issues and they have compassion because maybe they have aspects of compassion for themselves, right? A little bit. Because they know how it is. They know how it is to be, to struggle with addiction. But then I think in a different way, I think the Scorpio situation is different in that, on a lower vibration, it's like, remember, because Scorpio rules like secrecy, but high stakes secrecy. It's not the stuff of the unconscious. I'm very well aware of this about myself. I'm very well aware that I'm using, and we both are using together in secret, right? Nobody has to know what we're doing, right? But I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna cop this, and we can use it together, right? And so that's where, you know, that Neptune energy comes in after we get together, we score everything, and then we have that euphoric experience together in secret, which is 12th house. So 8th house versus 12th house. They're intercorrelated, but not exactly the same. The Scorpio energy, like I said, is definitely a power struggle where you go from feeling powerful to powerless. You know, you're powerful that you have the power to say no to whatever is your drug of choice, or, you know, the substance you struggle with, right? To being powerless, that you can't say no. I feel like Scorpio is the concept where you realize that you have a substance abuse problem. You realize that you have a substance abuse problem, you know, and some aspects, you know, especially with the partner who's also using, you're okay with that, you know, as long as you could keep the ruse up, that everything is okay. But there goes another power struggle, right? Another thing that I remember watching this show, like, a few years ago. It was actually a documentary, and it was like a HBO documentary, for those of you seen it in the past. It's called Dope Sick Love. I think it's called Dope Sick Love, something like that. But it was like a 90s HBO documentary about these heroin addicts, and it was really interesting. But the obsessiveness of Scorpio, like, was like, I made the connection, but like, yo, that is a concept surrounding drug abuse, and that's why Scorpio is surrounding drug abuse. I see it because these people didn't have any money, and they used all day to figure out a plan to get their next hit of heroin. And what they did was they picked out some receipts out the trash can, and they went into like Kmart, and they said, yeah, I bought this detergent, and they got money. They didn't even buy it. They got money because they said they on the receipt that they bought, you know, this detergent, and then they got enough money to go score some heroin. But that neuroticness, or that like obsessiveness of like a dope fiend move, or a dope fiend move, or a crack fiend, when you are trying to find out every strategic way, how can I get this drug? Like, that's when it becomes scorpionic, right? Because the drug now has power over you. It has power over your everyday. You can't function without it, right? So it has power over you. So you are consuming your whole day surrounding and using your mental bandwidth. And if you know anything about Scorpio risings, people who have Scorpio stelliums, Scorpio Mercury, they're all is strategic, especially Scorpio rising, because Scorpio rising has Gemini in the 8th place, which means they're always thinking, they're always strategizing. Don't let you have Scorpio rising, Gemini in the 8th place with Mercury there. You are always thinking. You are always strategizing, and it could be rumination. So ruminating about how I'm going to get my next fix, right? Like the obsession of the drug now is taking over, right? Those, those behaviors, the feeling of like, I got to get this, like, to really put your mind to being that strategic, to going through the trash cans, getting the receipt, and finding the store, so you can go in the store. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't even think of that when you're not in terms of desperation. So that is, some examples of the scorpionic influence or Pluto influence of substance abuse. I'm not saying that other signs can't have substance abuse, For example, there are other signs of how it displays, but oftentimes it's projected onto Pisces and onto Scorpio. And remember, guys, that even though it's projected to Pisces and Scorpio, and those are the rulers of Neptune and the ruler of Pluto, there can be other planets in that sign. For example, if you have Pluto in the 12th house, right? If you have Pluto in the 12th house, but it's not in Scorpio, we have Pluto in the 12th house, maybe you can have, you don't even realize that, like, you don't even realize that you have a substance abuse or that the substance is controlling you, depending on what sign it is in, right? And that's where the Neptune comes in. It would be like a Neptune-Pluto situation, right? That's where we stack certain things to understand aspects of astrology. If you have Neptune in the 8th house, you're aware. You're aware that you might have issues surrounding disassociation or the vulnerableness with yourself with alcohol. You're aware that you really like alcohol or really like that feeling that it gives you. Because remember, the 12th house and the 8th house are both feeling houses. They're emotions. When we talk about other aspects around alcohol or, substance abuse, I'm not going to say it's just alcohol because substances in general. And, really you can get strung out on any substance, honestly. It's the behaviors. It's not the substance that's the problem. But it's the behaviors. And that's why astrology is so important, because when you see planets in certain houses, then you can see certain behaviors emerge. Like, obviously an 8th house, Neptune in the 8th house, or, Pluto in the 8th house, because of those feelings, those intense feelings about, like, I need this. It doesn't necessarily always have to manifest like that, but it can. It can. And the same thing with the 12th house. It doesn't have to always manifest like that, but it can. Where, it's an unconscious thing that you end up slipping, and you be like, all right, it also can, some of the behaviors in substance abuse can also but some of the behaviors in substance abuse can also mirror some behaviors in, like, eating disorders too, with the hiding. Like I said, Pluto's the hiding. It's the secrecy. We're gonna light up in secret. Nobody has to know about this. We're gonna go in that bando right over there and light up. Nobody has to know. It doesn't even have to be in a bando. It could be in your house, but it's in secret, and you and that person are the only one that knows, and it's so high stakes. That is the adrenaline rush of the Pluto, because I know something about you. I know something about you that nobody else knows, and you know something about me that nobody else knows. So it's our secret together. That's the thrill of Scorpio energy. So, so that is, so how substance abuse emerges with those. Like I said, it can be in other signs, the physical appearance, because earth signs are very physical, right? So you can have, Saturn aspects to this as well. Saturn in the physical houses, or Saturn transit, Saturn transit could be the wasting away. Like, the person starts, like, getting in sunken in face, or, like, losing a lot of weight because they always on meth. Losing their teeth, because Capricorn rules the teeth. Losing a lot of teeth because they on meth. I would say, oftentimes when you have, like, fire energy, in certain placements of Neptune, and that is signifying or a signature of maybe substance abuse issues, depending on what's going on. I think oftentimes it's an impulsive substance abuse issue. Not to say it's still not substance abuse, but it tends to come on through impulsivity, or overindulgence. So we also can see Sagittarius having a substance abuse issue on the basis of overindulgence. This feels good right now. I just need more and more and more. They just don't know when to cut it off. It just feels good at the time. Keep it coming. It makes me happy. Keep it coming. You know what I mean? So Sagittarius, Neptune and Sagittarius in the 12th house. You realize what's going on. You're just like, this feels good. I want to continue to play. But you don't realize that you struggle with overindulgence. Like I said, so not all substance abuse denotes to Scorpio and Pisces, but oftentimes it is thrown as a stereotype that Pisces is the alcoholic and Scorpio is the drug addict. But they don't explain to me why this is. You know, what are the factors or the practical application to why they associate with this? Because it's a damn paragraph on the computer talking about, oh yeah, this could represent substance abuse or whatever, and people don't understand like what that means. You know what I mean? Like, what are the behaviors that institute, like, how that could be, how that could happen. But yeah, so anyway, you know, for those, comment what you think. I just wanted to share that because I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking about, remember that movie I was watching called Dope Sick Love? And then people were sitting up there going through the trash cans. I was like, damn, that's crazy. They took all day to go through the trash cans to get $20. I think it was $20 or something. Just to get $20, they can go get some heroin. Or I think it was crack, maybe, because they were smoking in the bathroom like that. So I think it was crack. I don't know, but that you see, that's neurotic right there. That's really neurotic. If you're gonna go through that much of a means, that's, you know, so on a lower vibration, it could be for drugs and self-destruction, and for a higher vibration, you could be that neurotic and really get a goal to what you're doing, or you could do, you know, really nail some detective work because you just have that passion for it, and it's just this insatiable passion, and you really can get a lot of shit done. You can, but it's all in how you use it. And just because the planet is in those houses, it doesn't necessarily mean the person will be a drug addict or an alcoholic or have a substance abuse issue. It just can be a behavior. It's all in what the person uses. They might have that personality, right? They might have that personality, but if they don't drink or if they don't use drugs, it could be emergence of something else, right? You know, it could be eating. You know, it could be eating. It could be a relationship addiction. Anything could be an addiction. So yeah. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and see you next time. OG Neptune.